Up next, Brooklyn Turner. She's been in the oil and gas industry for years, sales 19 years worth, a real expert, knows her stuff. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Brooklyn Turner.
Hey, Brooklyn, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you, Nate?
I'm doing really well. Where do we find you today? What city are you in?
Mustang, near Oklahoma City.
Okay, gotcha. Mustang. That's cool. Well, that's pretty great. 19 years is a long time to be in any industry. No, there's not very many people who do sales terribly well. One of the things that I've noticed is that most people actually don't do it well. Have you noticed that?
I would say that's true.
Why do you think that is?
Personally, I think the first reason why people don't typically excel in sales is because most people aren't really looking to serve the customer's needs. They're looking to make the sale. And that doesn't provide longevity in the sales force. It's very important to listen to what the customer's needs are and also what their budget allows for.
I guess that's an interesting question to ask you a follow-up. I like what you just said, but you talked about longevity. What do you mean by longevity?
Meaning those people that go into sales typically don't last or stay in sales for a long period of time. You definitely got to have a passion for it.
Do you think that they haven't made their mind up that they're going to be doing that, or do you think that it's just they don't, or they just haven't? Why do you think that is? Because I've noticed that too over the years. I can't decide if it's people who are just think they're going to like move on to something better later, or if they really are like resolved to it. Why aren't they treating it like a long-term gig? Why aren't they treating it like the last job they're ever going to have? That was some good advice that was given to me a long time ago, and I followed that in every job I've ever had. Is that what you think, or what do you think the reason is?
Sure. I believe the reason that people don't survive is because you've got to have really thick skin, because as we all know, especially in the corporate world, as you continue to rise and escalate your sales and beat the projections and the quotas that you've been given, those often change. And there's a lot of change and moving targets in the sales industry, because as a company sees that your capabilities, they're obviously going to add more to your plate to be able to get more out of you, because that helps them as a company. And being resilient and sticking with that is tough. I mean, you meet a goal or exceed a goal, and all to find out that your quota's changed and increased. And, obviously everything is cycles. And so as markets change, the dynamics of what companies have to spend changes, and sales can be a very up and down roller coaster. And many people that go into sales, a lot are commission based only, and or have a small base with the upside. And that's always propelled well for me because I'm capitalizing on the upside. But I think unless you have a love for the sales process, oftentimes when those obstacles come at people, they're not prepared or don't have the endurance to pivot through those changing times.
Now, you're interesting to me for a lot of reasons. Obviously, you're very well spoken, you're very bright, and I think a lot of people, make assumptions that salespeople are going to be a certain way, and I think you're pretty unusual. I think you're in the top couple of percent, which is why I'm talking on the phone. I don't just call up people just for the heck of it. I look for people who are doing something well and doing it right a long time, and are super professional, in the sense that you know how to make money and get things done. It's a fact. You offer your customers and your employers a really great solution. Everybody does. I think that's a win-win-win. When the customer wins, the business wins, and you, the salesperson, wins. Talk about your industry real quick. I know what you do, but for the sake of this, rather than have me tell everyone what you do, why don't you tell everybody what you do?
I'm in the oil and gas industry, and as we all know, that industry, like every other industry, is a very up and down industry, roller coaster, if you will, and many industries follow what's happening in the oil and gas industry. But obviously, if you are prepared for those changes and you budget and make wise decisions, as with anything in life, everything cycles. There's times of feast and there's times of famine, if you will, and it's being mentally prepared to work through those things. I have worked in several industries throughout my career, and by far, hands down, oil and gas is my passion. That's the industry that I love. And it's a fun industry because there's always something new. And in particular, many of the things that I've done in the oil and gas industry have provided mineral owners with a new and different lifestyle. It's a means of being able to provide them with lifelong dreams and see them take that and bless their family and other people and experience things that they've never been able to experience before through their ownership in oil and gas mineral rights.
That's really cool. It's interesting. I think, I think sales, there's a lot of different fields of sales, but I think it's unusual, if you'll forgive me for saying so, to be able to find a woman in what I usually consider a male-dominated space, not just sales in general, but oil and gas. There's a lot of men who engage in these things, and I get phone calls from people in the oil and gas industry all the time. I never once had a woman call me, and but I don't think it's for a lack of brain cells. It's not that somehow that change in chromosome changes anything. If anything, I think women have a real propensity to sell things really well, particularly to customer, to men and women. They're less threatening to women, and obviously to men, women are appealing. My mother was a woman. And so I think that's something that's seated in all of us as a young age. I'm not really one who buys into this whole load of crap that, men are out to get women in the workplace. I if anything, my highest paid employee in my personal staff is a woman. And
yes.
I'm a big fan. I think women in the workplace make a lot of sense, and they offer a lot of substance. How have you felt being? 19 years in the oil and gas industry. How do you feel about being a woman? What are if you had to leave us with a nugget, what would you say about that?
Well, without a doubt, you're correct in your statement in that it's a male-dominated industry. But that's obviously an area that, as you referenced, provides greater opportunity for women because women just by nature are very, I'm not saying that there aren't men or male multitaskers because there are.
But absolutely. Let's continue with your thought.
Yeah, women are able to balance a lot and stay organized, and I think it's probably fair to say, and this isn't true across the board, but just in general, women do have success in an area that's male-dominated for the reasons that you mentioned. If you're working with a female, you're relatable, and obviously, if you're working with males, you're going to sometimes run into egos and.
Sometimes with guys, I've always thought that it would be our nation as a whole would be better if police officers in general. Maybe aside from the SWAT team and maybe the jailers, but I think generally speaking, if you're not doing manhandling every day, I think people with traffic stops would do a lot better with a woman pulling them over. I think everybody would feel less threatened, less hassled, and guys wouldn't feel like they were out there in the middle of that, that proverbial pissing test or pissing contest, as we like to call it.
Right.
So
yes.
I think that's absolutely right. That's interesting. I know a lot of women don't get into these spaces. Why do you think that is?
I would say women don't come into this space a lot of times because they don't see the opportunity. I grew up with my grandpa talking about oil and gas my whole life, and I identified very quickly that it was an industry that would provide flexibility for me to be able to be a mom as well as a professional.
That's right. You are a mother.
Woman. Yes.
Yeah. How old is your daughter now?
She turns 15 next month.
Yeah, that's great. That's
So,
awesome.
So anyways, I've always been the person that's kind of looked for opposite of what you would traditionally expect, really in everything that I do throughout life, starting with diet, exercise, all the way through to career. And
you are, for those listening, Brooklyn is a very attractive woman for sure.
Well, thank you.
You really, you've done a great job. Take care of yourself. I'm trying to be better about it all the time. You really do have a good balance that way, and and not everybody does, and I think that there's a lot of power in having control over your physical self that translates into your professional self. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. I feel like everything hinges on that, and what I've done is my exercise and my diet is a set it and forget it. It's non-negotiable. I don't even have to think about it. It's going to happen.
It's non-negotiable. That's interesting. Non-negotiable. I like that. That makes it feel good when you talk like that. That's non-negotiable. That's really, really cool. Well, I mean, raising a daughter like that, 15-year-old, and and I don't know your daughter, but my guess is that she's probably a pretty polite, put-together young lady. Is that correct?
That is correct. She's
so
coming into those teenage years.
Well, sure, yeah. I've got a girl who just turned 12, and it's it's been fun so far, and we'll see how long that lasts. But I think there's a lot of misconceptions that you can't be serious in business or have a real job. I mean, you are the definition of a career woman. I mean, you're very impressive. And I think there's a lot of people who think, well, you can't be a single mom and do this. You can't do this and do that. You can't. You are living proof that you can do all of those things. Now, you're from Oklahoma originally, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Right. You didn't go to some crazy finishing school or anything like that. What was your education like?
I went to Oklahoma State University in Stillwater, and I received a double major in agricultural communications and accounting.
How useful. Okay. Agricultural communications. Like what? I worked in agriculture growing up, so how does that work? What do people who communicate agriculture do?
I grew up. The reason why I went into agricultural communications is because I grew up on a farm, and I was able to receive scholarship money from the College of Agricultural Sciences. And so, but I knew that most likely wasn't going to take me where I wanted to go in my career. And I always thought that if you understand math and the way that numbers work, you can do anything in life. So English was something that wasn't really a challenge for me. Writing and communicating came pretty natural. Math was something that I had to work a little bit more at in high school in comparison with other subjects. So I rose to the challenge in college and decided to double major in accounting.
That's really great. That's really awesome. You said you're an impressive woman in a lot of ways, an impressive human being. It's not just because you're a woman. But I will say that I'd be lying if I didn't tell you that you make it slightly more impressive because you are. I really, in my professional career and so on and so forth, I've had some incredible interactions with women. Like I said, my highest paid personal staff, works for me is a woman. I have a lot of high paid women in my organization. A lot of my business partners are women. And I've had really good experiences, but I will say that just in the time that I've known people, so on and so forth, and I've given advice or I've trained, I know that there's a lot of women I'll find who are in sales, and they'll say, it's really hard being here with all these guys. It's hard. It's a male-dominated space, and that's one of the things we spend, I'd say, probably half of our time talking about. Because a group will hire me, and I'll train their salespeople or their upper management or their middle management or whatever it is, and there's always the one-on-ones that I do. And I just find that that's something that's predominant through there. What would you say to somebody like that who felt like that was something that they needed to talk about all the time? I mean, is it something you worry about? I don't think it is.
No, it's not even something that I think about. When I went into, really with anything that I'm doing, I'm only competing with myself. And I think that's important for each individual to remember. When you're out there in anything in life, you should only be competing with yourself. The rest is just clutter. And I'm looking to be my be better than I was yesterday. And if you set out to stay focused on what your goal and mission is and don't let the clutter distract you, I've found that you're going to be far more productive and you're going to reach your goals much more quickly. You're more powerful than what you can even envision, but staying focused is very key, because the emotions, if you allow emotions to take over and allow that clutter in your mindset, that comes through and projects in the sales process as well. And, the customer can sense if there's something not right. And they may not know what it is that you're struggling with as a female, thinking, am I competing against this male, because sales process is a competitive environment. But I never worried about what anyone else was doing. I just looked to exceed the sales quota that I was given. And I was happy for those that did well, because that meant that we as an organization are doing well.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's absolutely right. I think that's something interesting there. So are you saying that not worrying about it is really the best thing you can possibly do?
Absolutely.
Because it is
just
easy
know
to
who
get.
you are as a person and the opportunity that you have before you. Because if you start taking time to compare yourself or measure yourself up against other people, it's not any different than looking at a post on social media. I don't spend a lot of time just cruising through. I keep up with the people I want to keep up with, and it's more in a conversational rather than, and I think social media is a powerful tool, and it's a great tool. I'm not knocking that, but I'm giving that as an example.
I would uninvent it if I could. If I could go back in time and find that MySpace guy and Mark Zuckerberg guy, I'd try to get him distracted and try to get him to go into some other industry. You know what I mean? Because
right.
It really is. It offers a lot of negativity. There are positive uses for sure, but I think it does a lot of harm too.
Right. Well, and I've been considering starting a side gig to kind of help people, and it would be through the social media platform. But I've been going back and forth with myself as to, my thoughts about social media in one hand are this, and then in the other hand, it's a very powerful tool that can help a lot of people. So, I've been trying to weigh through those things myself for putting up a platform to help other people, not really even asking. It's just a benefit for different things that I've gone through in life, and continuing to work through those things and not allow it to stop me from doing what I know that I'm good at.
Yeah.
And I would say the other thing for women in a male-dominated industry is just be confident in who you are. That confidence, or the lack thereof, it shows so vividly when you're in front of someone and when you're trying to communicate with another party. The confidence is key, because if you're not confident in what it is that you're trying to help them with, how is there any way that they would be able to be confident in purchasing what you're offering to them?
Yeah, 100%. I think that's exactly right. I think it's interesting that you say that, because I got to agree with you. I think that most people worry about a lot of stupid stuff. When I say stupid stuff, it's not that it's not real, but it's just, it doesn't matter how many men are in the room or how many women are in the room, how many people are doing it, At the end of the day, you watch a presidential election and you say, well, there's 330 million people in this country. But you know what? Really, at the end of the day, there's only 23 people who tried to be president. There's 23. Right. That's who actually went out and was yeah, I'm going to put my name in there and do it, whatever. And it started out with 23 people. 23. It wasn't hey, no, there was 74,000 applicants. No, there was 23. And so I think a lot of times that even though something might seem, whatever, I don't think you go into that saying, well, I'm not going to run this year because so-and-so is doing it. I'm not going to apply for this job because there's so many men doing it. I'm not going to work hard. And do you feel like sometimes you could, how do I say this? Do you feel like sometimes people use these situations as a pretext for their preemptive failure, as a way to basically say, this is how I'm going to justify not being number one, because it's a male-dominated space, because it's this, because I'm young, because I didn't go to college, because I did go to college, because I have a daughter. Do you feel like that?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And, the mind is the most powerful tool we have, or it's the biggest detriment. Typically when we're struggling with something, it's because of the matter between our ears. It's not because
Yeah.
someone has said something. It may be because someone did something, but we took it the wrong way. Because and we all, we all go there at times. I'm not saying that I don't go through those times and that I haven't gone through those times. I'm human just like everyone else, but I try to stay very real with myself. And when my mind starts tangenting there, and it's something I've had to work on, because throughout life, throughout relationships, marriages, divorces, medical things, you sometimes have to work through those things and keep that mindset in the right place.
You're absolutely right. I think that's really well said. Now, one of the things I love talking, whenever we've had phone conversations in the past, I've always enjoyed talking to you because you're such a practical person. Instead of getting all keyed up in whatever emotion could be out there. And I think emotion's it's a beautiful thing. You love, baby's born, you love them the second they're born. It's pure emotion. You like a color, you just like that color. You eat eggs Benedict, it's not that good for you, but you eat it because it tastes good. And so, life's full of emotion, and there are great moments to expound on that, whatever. But I've always felt with you that you're a person who's really analytical and really practical. That practical nature, that may be something you were raised around. How important do you feel is it to develop that as a professional?
It's absolutely key. I would say that as I've gone through my career, I have really probably matured in the practicality aspect. But I was raised on a farm, and my dad is very level-headed. My mom she's more.
Farming's a level-headed business. You
Yes.
have to be. There's practical decisions you got to make in the heat of the moment. You can't think about it overnight. You can make your decision right now. That makes a lot of sense.
That's right. And you go out and you have a crop and it doesn't do well. It doesn't matter. You've got to get up and do the same thing the next day, and hope work towards maybe the next crop being better. A good example of that is
harvesting what you can.
Yes, that's right. And I learned a lot, my work ethic, from growing up on a farm. My dad's in his 60s, and I talked to him every morning on the phone, and he was out in the field until 12:30 this morning taking hay off the ground because he didn't want it to get rained on.
Yeah.
So,
No, that's I worked ranch growing up, and I'll tell you, there's no days off. And I agree with you. I think that's some of the things that have made me as practical as I am, much to the chagrin of people who want to bathe in emotion. There really is a practical aspect to that. You don't get to decide when that calf is going to come out. You don't get to decide whether it rains or not, even if it's Father's Day like it was yesterday. You don't get to make that decision about whatever you do. And so you go out there and you feed cows, and you sometimes you got to put one down, you got to fix a fence, and gosh, it's par for the course. You can't not step in the muck because you're going to step in the muck because cows. It is a practical situation. That's interesting. That's in all the interviews I've done with people recently, that's one of the consistent things that I've heard back. That people they have a practical mindset. I think that's very interesting.
Well, and the other thing to think about with the emotion is that when you're emotional, you're in many cases not going to make the right decision for getting to the next level that you're seeking in sales. If you make emotional decisions, oftentimes it's not a wise decision. So really trying to take the emotion out of it and look at it more analytically will bode well for making a good business decision.
That's interesting. Let me ask you this: when you decided that you were going to get into oil and gas, it sounds like something, maybe it's a commitment you've had to yourself for a long time. At least you considered, since your dad did it. What other things did you think about doing, or was it going to be about oil and gas?
Well, I worked through several industries: medical, banking, and the corporate world, working in software development. And oil and gas was always something that I wanted to spend more time in for the reasons, good income, flexibility. Quite frankly, growing up on a farm was a great thing, but I want to go enjoy life and travel and be able to work from anywhere. And I can do that in oil and gas.
Yeah.
When I worked corporately, I had to be feet on the ground because I was overseeing 64 other people, and you always had someone that had a problem and you had to re-navigate the team as a result of working through those problems. So
that's interesting.
And oil and gas, I would say right now is not, it's not at a high point. We'll say that.
No, let's say that. Let's say. Yeah, it's weird. It's not at a high point. That's a really positive, nice way of saying that. Good for you.
But you if you plan accordingly, you budget well. I mean, all last week I was in Branson with my daughter at her dance nationals, and I didn't have to worry about. Yes, I tended to the business I needed to tend to, but I didn't feel like, man, I got to get home because I got to get that taken care of. I take my computer with me. I've got my phone. I can do most everything on my phone with the great apps that are out there and everything else these days.
Makes a difference, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I have 2 cell phones myself, just in case everyone ever gets damaged or beat up. I've got duplicates of all that stuff. I keep things around and I got 2 cell phones on 2 networks because you just never know if you're going to be in a weird area. And so it's really important to have all that. Yeah. So I agree with you.
Issue can be a problem. Yes,
it can. So I like to try to find myself in good situations as best as possible. Obviously, there's some areas that you don't get coverage, but it really is better today to be able to do all that. I think there's tell me what you think about this. I'm going to make a statement, and then you react to it, Brooklyn. You get to react.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of women who are in sales who don't know they're in sales. They think they cut hair. They think they do brows. They think they're cosmetologists. They think all these things, but really, they're in sales.
I agree 100%. It does not matter what you're doing. You're in sales. Everything that you do is about sales. Now, it's not, in my opinion, it's not always about selling something that the customer doesn't need. I think that's where I've had a lot of success over the years, because many salespeople enjoy talking more than listening, and I think a key quality to make sure that a good salesperson possesses is to listen. And you will identify sales opportunities by listening to what the person on the other side of the table, across the room, across the desk says to you, and that inherently provides sales opportunities. And it may not always be a sales opportunity where you actually get paid a commission. It might be someone referencing something, and you have, through your networking, someone that's really good at that could satisfy their need. And that's a way to build rapport and to continue serving the customer on an ongoing basis. I can't tell you the number of people that call me and say, hey, do you know someone for this? Because during the sales process or during dialogue, I've listened to what they've said, and you don't even know. Here's a good example. In Branson, I was sitting next to a mom that our daughters both dance, and it was my first time meeting this mom because this girl was the first year back to the studio, and COVID last year, no one was together. So I was talking with her, and we went and did something in the evening as a group, and then on the way home, her daughter's texting, and her mom wants to know what kind of perfume I wear. Well, there's a sales opportunity. It doesn't directly benefit me in terms of in the pocket, but I'm able to share something. I have no idea that she liked my perfume. I wasn't even thinking about it, So there's more than one way to serve, and I always think that if you look and identify opportunities to give back, that comes back to you tenfold.
I call it indirect benefit.
Yes.
So, you help somebody so you end up helping somebody with something that there's no direct check to you. But something strange happens. when we do something for somebody with nothing expected at the other end, particularly when they have been interested or have bought from us in the past, we become a trusted friend. We go past that point. And back to what you said earlier in the beginning of this interview, you talked about caring about your customers and loving them, right? And wanting them to get answers, wanting them to get solutions. I think that's powerful. Actually, I know that's powerful. And I also know that's one of the reasons why you're so good at what you do. You're a very sincere person. Now, everybody that I interview for this project, for this channel, for whatever, I will tell you the one common thing that everybody has is every person I'm interviewing has a lot of integrity, as much as anyone can muster. And and everyone's really good. Like, I don't interview anybody who's not really good either. So people with lots of integrity and lots of people who are very, very good. I think, generally speaking, you'll find that a lot more women in the world of sales, percentage-wise, hold on to that integrity more so than men per capita. Would you agree with that?
I haven't ever really thought about it, but just quickly thinking through that comment, I would not disagree.
I'll get a group that'll have me come in and I assess everybody. I'll listen to everybody's calls, go through the whole thing, and always pick out the dirtbag, because there's always one dirtbag. Well, not always, but there's always one person who's pushing the limits a little bit too far, a little too liberal with the warranties or the guarantees or so on and so forth, right? If you're just a big enough organization, I'm not talking like 20 people. I'm talking we're dealing with like 100 people. I can always find one guy who's like, yeah, this guy's like he's got a potential future in like Ponzi schemes. You know, this guy's got to like watch out. And it's always a man. I've never found a woman who felt like, oh, you're pushing it too hard. If anything, I found that typically the most sincere people that I've dealt with are the females in the sales force, and they always represent the smallest group in traditional sales forces, right?
Yes.
You know, because like we mentioned, everything's sales. I mean, you know, even you're a teacher, you're convincing kids to learn a certain way, to do something, get them to make a deal, get them to do their homework, get them to do a permission slip. It's always this selling of oneself. But, you know, whether you're selling haircuts or upselling people into shampoo and products, or you're selling big gas and oil deals or whatever it may be, there really is this, there's this opportunity to misrepresent your products and yourself, or to be sincere.
That's right.
I have found out how I feel about it, and I know you have too. I'm going to give you an opportunity to talk about it right now. For me, I feel like that by being sincere and being honest, that gets people to trust you even more, and they're going to buy anyway. You know, I used to sell cars. I've sold insurance. I've sold distressed land. I've all these bizarre things, you know, and all the different businesses I've run. And I've had people come to me and say, "Hey, Nate, do you think this car is going to break?" I say, "Absolutely." Like, what do you mean? I guarantee it'll break. Like, it's a fact. And they're like, "Really?" I'd be like, "I don't know if you haven't noticed, but there's like not a lot of like original 1950s cars driving around. It's because they're all in the garbage. I mean, even 1970s and 80s, a lot of them are in the garbage, you know?
That's
it's because the car's going to break." And they're like, "Oh, you're right." I'd be like, just so you realize, this is not an investment. This is like buying a pizza. You eat the pizza and the pizza's gone. You're going to buy the car, you're going to drive the miles, and then depending on when you decide to get rid of it, depends, but it's going to cost you no matter what. You're not going to sell this for a profit. You're going to either eat the whole pizza, half the pizza, 25% of the pizza, but when you're done, you're there. So for me, I've always found a lot of incredible freedom in just by coming out and saying, "Hey, here's the ugly truth about what's going on. Here's the elephant in the room, whatever you want to call it." How is that type of honesty and integrity that I know you possess? How does that translate in your life, and what are the results from it?
It would be critical to the ongoing sales process. So particularly like an example, when I was in software sales, one of the first things that I would tell a customer is that not every product that we have is a good fit for you. You know, my job is to help identify, to listen to what your problems are and help identify. And it may be that not all of those are a good fit right now. We need to stage that out. Don't pay for something that you're not using. Getting that usability up and making sure that they're using what they've purchased is key, because if you sell something and the customer doesn't use it, then you're of no value. You're not only selling to make a sale, you're selling for them to feel like they cannot live without that and they need more. And I think that also reciprocates and leads into selling more product down the line. The other thing that I did, particularly in the software side, was I would let them know when something major in the system changed that would help them. I took very copious notes on customers, and I put keywords in my notes so I could easily identify who I needed to let know when something came out that would change their life, make their job easier, make them a superstar for their management team. So,
I agree. Those are positives you get, whatever. And if some businesses, they have reviews or surveys that obviously translates. If people feel tricked, you're going to get a bad survey or you won't get one at all. And then ongoing business, as you said, I totally agree with that. But you also just touched on something else. I wonder if I might pick your brain about that for a second. This is something that I do religiously. I'm a big fan of, I like an online CRM. I enjoy online sales tools, all that stuff, generators. It's all great. But I always keep my personal notes. I keep them in a notepad. You said you keep notes on your customers. What kinds of things do you write down? What's important to the mind of the mind of Brooklyn? What are you writing down when you're gleaning information? What is it you glean? What is it you harvest?
The first thing that I do when I'm meeting a client for the first time, I ask about them, about their family. I learn them, and then I get into the company needs. I think making sure that you're building that rapport and establishing that relationship that you can build upon. I ask the names and ages of their kids, what their interests are, like what their kids are involved in, or if they don't have kids, what pets, what are their hobbies, engage with them and listen to what they have to say and ask them about those things. And then learning, their role in the business and asking the probing questions to get them to open up, creating that safe environment for the person to share freely, and then always building upon those notes. Like for me, I like pencil and paper, so I keep a notebook as well, but I'll also keep it in my computer in case I'm traveling and I've already used up that notebook. I might need to reference it electronically when I'm out of town. So having more than one source.
I think electronically is really good. I'm unusual because if I hear something and I write it down, it's in my memory forever. I remember birthdays, dates. I'm a little freaky, but I agree. Just getting it written down, putting it somewhere makes sense. I will say one of the things that I teach, and I think this works pretty soundly, whether people like it or not. I don't care what 21st. I'm not well known for being Mr. Politically Correct. I'm known for being fair and objective and helping people get what they want, right? But I'm not going to sit around making some 6-hour disclaimer because I'm about to make a statement. I will say, as a man, if you go in and you start asking about family entirely first, it's not going to come off sincere. As a woman, you can do that because women are well known. Their reputation is to value family and relationships. Men value money and their careers, typically speaking. If you've read any of the classic psychology books. So for those of you listening to this, for the men, don't go in all personal. You can do a mix. I do a hybrid. So I'll go in and I'll ask business what I'm doing with it, and it rolls out and it's a natural conversation. But for women, I think you can absolutely do that. I think that's feminine energy. I think you can go in there and ask them those questions, and I think they genuinely believe that you're sincerely interested. I've never sensed any insincerity in anything from you ever, and I think you're pretty great. So there are caveats though, and we do have to realize, I'm tall. I'm 6'2", and I have a beard. I look like I don't, and my natural face isn't a big smile. I have to practice to smile when I'm in front of customers, right? And so I've had to take those genetic things that came to me, being a man, being tall, being big, being scary, whatever it is, and I've had to look for ways to minimize my footprint so I don't look so big, to put my hands behind my back, and to put my feet close together so I don't take up as much space instead of standing there with my arms crossed, looking like Thor or some mass murderer. You know what I mean? It's really easy to get that.
Posture, yes.
Posture is a real thing.
Yourself.
Yeah, you said something else that I thought was really interesting, and this is a word that a few people have brought up, and I'd like to focus on it for a second. You use the word environment. So you're fostering an environment. You're building an environment of trust. We talked about that. What happens? What happens to people who trust us? What do they do?
They seek us as their source of resolution.
Very well said. Very well said. Their source of resolution. People who trust us seek us as their source of resolution. I love the way you put that. That's great.
Yes, I mean it really is, and you know, going back to what we talked about earlier, you know, with having that internal network, and you know, when you provide something for those customers, then they start, you've become their go-to person for a lot of things, you know, and you know, I don't know, maybe some people just don't want to be bothered if it's outside of business. I don't mind that because it helps me in business. So, you know, I mean, I've told people like on mineral sales, you know, before, if they had other offers, I said, let me know the other offers. I'll see, you know, if I'll try to do my best. If I'm not able to get you more money, you need to go with that because it's the best for you, you know? So
that goes back to being the honest, transparent thing, right?
That's right. That builds trust.
And just acknowledges it out there, saying, hey, if it's a better thing, you should do it.
Right.
And I agree with that. You know, I think, have you ever found yourself in a situation where you've told a customer to go the other way, and then they go the other way, and they find it's not all cracked up to be, and then they come back to you?
Absolutely. And it happens more times than not.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. People are always so surprised by that. You know, I remember when I used to, I love car sales analogies. I've done so many things. You know, I've sold a lot of stuff, but I love the car sales analogies because everyone can understand it, because almost everyone in this country or Canada has bought a car. So, and this is my main thing. I don't really do a lot of consulting in Europe or anything like that. I don't. I mean, I speak some languages, but understanding the psyche of the buying mind, I'm definitely an expert in these continental United States, and particularly, here in the 48 and in Canada. So what I would say though is that there is this incredible situation that people come in, they'd say, hey, I want this used car. And they want something that just, you haven't got it, right? I'm looking for a 2006 F-150, 4 doors, and I want it to be a Lariat. Okay. We're going to go to the used car store and order that for you. That's not how it works, right? Hey, you know what? I don't have anything like that. But I'll tell you what, if I see something, I'll call you. You get their information, you write it down. And what I would do, and I'll tell you this is gold, I would literally get out and start doing the searching. Because I'm a car professional, I know how to search the queries. I know how to look for cars. So I'd go out and find the cars, and I'd say, hey, look, I actually found a car. Here's where you go. Here's the number. I think the price is decent. The miles are good. I'd have it checked out, take it over to, this place, have it looked at. And if you like it, then this would be a good deal for you. And you can just hear the jaws drop on the telephone when you'd call them with that. Because here's the thing is, I know that I wasn't going to come with an F-150 in the next couple of days. It wasn't going to happen. It's not going to roll in. It just isn't going to roll in. I've never once ever been in a situation where it's like, well, I guess I shouldn't have called Jim because here's that gold F-150 in 2006 with the exact amount of miles that he wants. It didn't ever happen. It never happened. But so many jaws would drop, and I'd say most of the time that people would buy their car anyway, and they wouldn't necessarily come back to me to buy a car right away, but they like out of sheer respect or guilt or whatever it was, they would bring me their sister. They would bring me their neighbor. Hey, this guy Nate, he's good. He'll get you. I know you wanted this Camry. He'll get you a Camry. And I'd say probably 9 times out of 10 it turned into a referral. And I think people are so afraid of hard work. Do you think that? Do you think that salespeople are afraid of hard work?
Yes. I think most people in general. I mean, look what's happening in our world right now. You go into a restaurant and you're waiting. First of all, you're going to have to wait to get in, and like there's so many tables that are open. It's like this place has like 5 tables with people at it. And then you get seated and you're waiting for over an hour on your food. Like, we're sorry, we only have 1 cook in the kitchen. And everywhere you drive, it's now hiring. I mean, it's crazy. Yeah, no,
it is asinine. But these types of things have been going on for a long time. I agree. It's accentuated now. I stayed in a hotel, took my son on a business trip to Ohio the other day. We did some work out there. And when we checked into the hotel, they said, sorry it's taking so long to get you. Mr. Holtzapfel, sorry it's taking so long to get you in here. I'm a Marriott whatever, the top of the line rewards thing. I stay at Marriott almost exclusively, right? And they gave me this whole thing. Hey, we're doing our very best, but honestly, we just can't get anybody to clean the rooms right now. We're behind on everything. We will get you situated as soon as possible. You're very important to us. And they were very reassuring. But literally, I decided to engage in the conversation. I said, tell me more. And I just found out they couldn't open half of the hotel because they literally don't have the staff to run it. And people are lazy. And I think that sales in particular attracts kind of like policing. Policing doesn't necessarily, it's a big question. Does working for the police make you brittle and abrasive, or are you brittle and abrasive and that's why you become a police officer, right? Because I have a lot of cop friends, and a lot of my cop friends are pricks. Some of them are really cool dudes, and they're nice to me, but I can see how they read something the wrong way. The reason I get along with them is because I'm kind of a thick-skinned dude. I don't mind, But but I think there's something that attracts. I think sales sometimes attracts people who are into shortcuts. It attracts people who are lazy. I mean, because like you said before earlier in this interview, you're doing this job not because you're not making $50,000 a year doing this. You're making some real money, and the way you do that is by upping your ante and having some real possibility. That's how you make a big digit income. That's how you go out and crush and smash things. And I think that a lot of times this industry attracts people who see that and are allured to that, but aren't necessarily realizing that, hey, the commonality here isn't having the job. The commonality here is having the opportunity and then putting in the work of what you would normally do in a job, and I know that you have put in way more than 40 hours a week on many occasions. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes.
I don't have to even ask you. I know that. And the reason I highlight that is so someone listening to this can understand these types of opportunities are amazing, but anybody who's good at anything, whether you're the Beatles or, you're the guy who created, Walmart, whoever it is, if you want to do something exceptional, you're going to put in some exceptional hours and work. That's all there is to it. There isn't. And I think salespeople in general, they all want to make, $200,000 a year or $300,000 a year or $1 million a year, but very few of them are willing to put in $1 million worth of effort. They're willing to put in bare minimum. And frankly, their paychecks reflect it. And that's why you're getting $60,000. And there's nothing wrong with that. But just realize that's the separation between you and whatever. Sure, there's a lot of trade craft. There's a lot of things that I teach. But the one thing I cannot teach, the one thing you cannot teach, it's that desire to get out and be motivated to take the opportunities to make it happen.
That's exactly right. I mean, and I answer my phone, pretty much 24/7. It doesn't matter what day it is or what time it is.
I'm with you.
Weekends
were sold to a group of people who and there's nothing wrong. Once again, if you're listening to this and you work at the DMV, good for you. You're comfortable. You like your life. For the rest of us, weekends, that's not a real thing. Friday night, Saturday night's not real. I go to dinner on Tuesday nights. I rarely go on Saturday nights. I go on Tuesday. Why? Because nobody's out. Everything's cheap. Del Taco Tuesday night. It's 3 tacos for $1. So that's when all the big shots like me are out there buying them tacos, getting them on deals. I'll buy tacos for everybody in the whole restaurant when it's that price. Leave out of that place, and it's a good time. So I've never been bought into the Friday Saturday thing or it's after 5 thing. I don't expect, my personal staff to work after 5, but me personally, I'm willing to talk to a customer who's ready to pay me anytime somebody wants.
That's right. I mean, I do the same thing. I try to go and
it doesn't
do
even
the things
surprise
I want to
me.
do
Of course.
during the week. And, if I want to go play golf, I'm playing it during the week. I'm not playing on the weekend because I'm not fighting the crowd on the weekend.
You and I both have fabulous lifestyles. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people, they hear it, you talk about hard work, and they're like, well, that's a lot of work. And it's like, well, no, because you manage it around. You know what I mean? I go skiing in the middle of the week. I watch movies. I went to brunch this morning and had paella. You know what I mean? It's like and I got driven there in a pretty nice car. You know what I mean? Like I've had a nice day, but I'll make calls with my headset around me, and I'm not afraid to say, hey, you know what? Hold on, I need to call real quick. Hey, here's what's up. Oh yeah, I'll call you when I'm done with food. I'll call you when I'm done with this. Or, hey, let's talk about that. And just that sheer responsiveness, I think that fosters an environment of trust when customers can get a hold of you.
Yes.
I have a lot of attorneys on retainer. That's a nasty thing that I've learned about being in business and running a lot of businesses and stuff and having my name out there, that anybody who even breathes a word about an attorney, you get a letter from mine. Like, that's all there is to it. And I've got 3 of them. But I won't work with an attorney if he doesn't offer me his cell phone right away. If he doesn't offer me his cell phone so I can text him and get a hold of him, you're not working for me. You're not getting the retainer. We're done. And so all of my attorneys and whatever, I need somebody I can text like at 2 in the morning and say, hey, here's this thing. I need this thing out as soon as possible. And they'll respond and say, hey, Nate, no problem. I'll get this done. I know it's Saturday, but let's get them a cease and desist. Let's get them served. Let's do this. And these guys are champions. And not every lawyer is like that. Not every salesperson is like that. Not every person is like that. And I think the more we have of this attitude of this fostering trust, that's where excellence starts showing its head. Wouldn't you agree? Because I mean, there's nothing genetically special about you. I mean, you're beautiful, but there's nothing genetically special that should say, hey, you should make money. There's a lot of beautiful people out there who don't have great jobs. There's a lot of beautiful people out there who have great opportunities but can't make any money. It's just not enough. You know, Stephen King, you know who he is? The crazy author. He said something that I'm sure has offended a lot of people. I know because I say it to people and it offends them. But once again, my specialty is not making you feel good. It's about helping people make some money and get some stuff kicked in the butt, you know?
Right.
Stephen King said, talent is as common as table salt, and I've added just as cheap, because it is. So being good looking, you know, being tall or nice, or speaking 3 languages, or having a good family, or wearing nice clothes, that's all nice. And some of it's happenstance, but it just isn't enough. It's just not enough. So to create that environment of trust that you were talking about, what do you think? What do you think is the single most important? I mean, see, you love your customers, you want to get things going there. What do you think it really, really boils down to when you're out helping a customer, when you're giving them a referral, or you're doing that? What is the one thing inside of you that makes you say, "This is my why"?
My why is building a legacy for my daughter. But if you're wanting it more on a customer standpoint, is that
No, for you. Like you do all these things. You take these calls all the time. You're out in a competitive industry. Sometimes you will give out a referral that doesn't directly pay you. It's a direct benefit.
What is it?
What is it keeps your motor going? What is it that's inside of there? Because all these other things are peripheral. You were going to look the way you look no matter what. Sure, you work out and you eat healthy, but you were going to be a knockout no matter what. That was going to happen. You were going to be a woman. That just happened. You were gonna be born the day you were. You were going to be this old this year. I mean, these things are all happening. These are all happenstance. You're from Oklahoma. There's all these things that are going on. What is the one thing that's like, hey, this is why I do all this crap I've been talking about for the last hour. This is why I do this. This is why I do all the stuff I've been talking about for the last hour. This is why I do this.
The first reason is to build a legacy for my daughter, to provide her with something different than, I had a great life. I was raised in a good environment. But, I knew that I didn't want to work the way that my dad does every day. I wanted to be able to go and do things and enjoy life and create memories with my daughter. So that was a motivating factor towards having quick success and then maintaining that success. And then the other thing is truly the joy that it gives me to be able to help other people. I don't want to just be known as, hey, they sold me that, call her. That's not how I want to be thought of. I want to be thought of as a resource that others can trust what I'm saying and make their lives better just by a simple referral. I know that whenever I give a name and a number, I'm enriching that person's life. Now, it's up to them to make that call, to take that next step, but they probably wouldn't have called me asking for the referral if they weren't going to take the next step. So,
totally.
I think it's always, for me, I have purpose being able to give back to others. I don't do well when I don't have the opportunity to do those things. And I say that because, you go through like COVID. COVID was a different type of thing because,
gosh, it wasn't that wild.
But, there was also some stuff going on with me medically, and crazy enough, in the midst of COVID, I had 6 surgeries and recovered from those 6 surgeries.
Did you really?
Yes. And I had surgery in California, no less. I mean, all but one of my surgeries were in California. So I lived most of 2020 in California. And,
oh my gosh.
it was, things were restricted and you couldn't go in and sit down in a restaurant. But you know what? The opportunity to be able to have the surgeries and to get through all of that when no one else was able to do anything anyways, And the week after my last surgery, everything shut down in California and they quit doing surgery, any kind of surgery. So, you know, I think when you bless others, you're blessed tenfold. And it's always looking at the glass half full instead of half empty, because it's easy to be able to transition into the negative mindset. You know, if something comes your way, you've got to be resilient towards finding the positive in everything, because that negativity will take you the other way tenfold, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. So would you say that the one, I mean, you talked about legacy for your daughter, of course, that's super important. I think we all work for our kids or all that sort of thing. So I'm trying to write this, just get it down to a sentence here. Are you saying that your why is because you believe in karma, energy, blessings, and that everything will come back to you if you put out enough good stuff?
Yes.
Okay. I agree with that too. And I think you're amazing. I think it's really wonderful. I'm really glad we've had a chance to have this discussion. I mean, here's the thing is, I could talk to you for probably 2 or 3 or 4 hours to get all kinds of gold. But I know you're busy. You got a lot going. I appreciate you carving out time to do this, carving out time from your golfing, your lifestyle, and your work, and your daughter. It's super appreciated. And I'll tell you this: you are a person who I would hire in 2 seconds and never even have to think about it. You really are amazing. I can't say that about very many people. That's a fact.
Thank you, Nate. It's been a great opportunity, and I'm blessed to be able to take some time to share, and whatever you take of this conversation to share with other people, I'm excited for the blessings that those people receive as well. I would, you know, that's what I seek to do each day, is just to be able to give back and help others. So if you want to expand upon this at some point in the future, I'm happy to do that as well, and look forward to seeing how your sales platform grows.
Another commonality between all the incredible winners that I interview, it's this expression of, sure, when would you like more of my time? Let me help. This is a constant theme. And I'll tell you, I go through all these people that I interview. It literally is. It's just these same key things. And I'll tell you what, that right there, that says everything. Thanks a lot, Brooklyn. We'll talk to you later.
Thank you, Nate. Have a great day.
Will do.
Bye-bye.
Isn't she great? I put this series together so people can have an opportunity to understand the attributes and the mindsets of the best of the best. The interesting thing about it is that we can all learn new little word tracks and nuances. And look at the things that everybody focuses on. You know, she talked about environment. You know, that's an important part of sales, understanding the environment in which you create, an environment of trust. Well, I trust you've enjoyed this as much as I have. Feel free to watch our next video, subscribe, and of course, our phone number's down below. If you'd like to talk about your sales strategy, plans, ideas, hopes, dreams, or sales fantasies, give us a ring.